Well, how about that? We're back in the rainy pattern. It wasn't exactly unexpected. We saw that on the precipitable water yesterday. Remember those charts? And we saw that blob of moisture coming into Texas, and this is what we're getting from that. Definitely could use the rain, though. What we're seeing here is just kind of the remnants of those old storms that came through about 3 or 4 o'clock, and most of that is just anvil. High-level anvil up at about 20,000 feet, 15 to 20,000 or so. And you can see the remnants of that right here on the SPC mesoanalysis. So let's check out that 70 isodrosotherm, because that does kind of paint out where the moisture is. And it stretches all the way up to Iowa, all the way up to Wisconsin and Illinois, so it goes quite a ways north. But then as you go westward, you get more into the drier southwestern desert air. And we can't really make out a dry line because, normally we don't see that in the late summer. That's because the monsoon is in full effect and it tends to flood the desert regions with a lot of moisture there. Not 70-degree dew points, but, certainly 40s and 50s, which is significant out there. That front that we had in Kansas and Oklahoma yesterday, you can see that's retreated northward. And we're under this anticyclonic flow. So what else is going on what's going on out in the Gulf? We were tracking that one system near Cuba. That's still on its way into the Gulf. But we've got this new disturbance just off the coast of Louisiana. Probably getting a little latent heat and pressure falls with that. I don't know if we can see that on the surface chart, but we can take a look here. Don't see a closed circulation offshore. But there's a little bit of cyclonic curvature to the flow. These plots don't have pressure. If we go to the College of DuPage site, it doesn't look like we have pressure on those. We would probably have to use a tool like Digital Atmosphere to do that. And then that brings us to the infrared satellite imagery. We're doing this instead of the water vapor. This shows the temperature of the cloud tops. So here in Florida, cloud tops probably close to 50 or 60 below 0 Celsius. And out here in the Gulf, we're reflecting energy from the warmer Gulf waters. So it's actually the black colors that correspond to higher infrared heat. And the white shades, which are here are mapped to green and red, those indicate a lack of infrared heat. Let's go to the big picture. This kind of gives us a good idea what's going on. And you'll notice I decided to do the hemispheric chart here. So the North Pole is located about right there. This here is Asia. And then we come to Europe out in this area. And then North America is down in this area here. And one thing that's going to affect our weather over the upcoming week is this large wave off the coast of, or actually in eastern Siberia. And one thing that's pretty apparent here is this jet. It dips pretty far south down into North Korea, South Korea, and then it goes all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. So it's bringing a lot of warm air from southerly latitudes up to northern latitudes. Just to show you what's going on, I plotted Digital Atmosphere here to show you eastern Siberia. We don't get a chance to see that too often. But one thing that's interesting here, look at this, 71 degrees along the Arctic Ocean. So we're bringing this warm air advection northward. And that's definitely a potent weather maker there. What I'm going to do here is overlay the sea level pressure so you can get a closer look at this. And then we're going to go back to the upper level chart and I'm going to show you a couple things here. In fact, let me go and do that now. It's kind of good to look at weather in unusual locations like this because, we're not accustomed to those, and it kind of gives us a different perspective on the way these systems are structured. Now, let's go back to that polar front jet. Okay, so we can see that is that's right on this peninsula called Kamchatka. I'll show you that on the other map. But what I'm trying to do is get our bearings on exactly where this is. So it goes just north of Japan, across Kamchatka, and then in eastern Siberia. Now, we're going to expect to find a low pressure area underneath this at the surface where there's the highest wind speeds. So I'm talking about this area right here. And we would expect to find the cold front located a little bit equatorward of that jet stream, and probably a warm front here where there's the ridging. So we can take that to the surface chart and check out what's going on. So plotting those upper level winds, we're seeing that flow like this. We have the actual low pressure area a little bit to the left of there, so that tells us that that's a deep occluded system. The occluded systems tend to be left of the jet stream track, and we would expect new development along the jet stream track itself. Now, the important thing is that we've got a cold front somewhere out here, probably retreated a little bit further in here. Warm front located something like that. So that's in the ballpark of what we saw in the upper level chart. And then from there, we've got a occluded system. Now, this is bringing a lot of warm air northward, and that's going to change the patterns a whole lot over the next week. Let's check out what happens here. So this is going into tomorrow. You can see that jet stream energy goes way up into the Arctic Ocean, pretty much over the North Pole. And then over here, there's a big change. We see a whole lot of troughing out here. So this whole system is breaking up into a lot of waves. Okay, so here there's some new energy down to the south, and then getting out towards the end of next week, we start bringing a chunk of this energy south along the west coast, and we end up with a pretty deep trough here in the western U.S. So very high amplitude pattern, very deep systems coming up here for the next week. Let's see, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I wanted to cover kind of like region by region across the U.S. Let's go up to the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to do change sector here. Still got that hot weather in Seattle and Portland. Look at that, 94 there, 93, 88, and Portland here has 95. So they're still suffering from that heat. So we've got northwesterly flow in this region. And what I'm trying to do here is take the big picture and jump from region to region, and then we can drill down to a smaller scale to see what's happening. So let's go to the southwest U.S. What's our dominant pattern here? We always see some onshore flow across Los Angeles and San Diego. So why do we have this onshore flow? This could be tied to a heat low, possibly, because Death Valley, of course, is right in this area. Is that supported by the surface data? Well, sort of. We only have 88, 86 around Las Vegas. That's not too hot. We have 91 in the inland deserts, the Mojave Desert right here, so that's pretty warm. So this probably could be a heat low. We'll have to look at the data a little bit more. In fact, let me switch over to the upper level chart. So we're kind of putting this together as we go. Looks like we got a little bit of a jet stream segment across here. So, that could also be some baroclinic energy. The monsoon is, you can see a lot of this raining here. This is the southwest monsoon, the remnants of it, because we're getting into the tail end season. 2 points around 61, 48, 52, this characteristic of monsoon season. Now let me switch sectors to the southeast U.S. Now here this is more of a traditional Bermuda high easterly flow across Florida, so this is normal for this time of year. And then up to the north of that, we see an old stagnant polar system coming into northern Georgia, northern Alabama, like that. And where those wind fields come together, that indicates where the front is. So that's going to be roughly like that. Then it looks like we catch the tail end of that system in Arkansas and Oklahoma. Okay, then let's go to the northeast. So in the northeast we have northwesterly flow. And the temperatures are a little bit on the cool side. We have 65 there in New Hampshire, upstate New York's low 70s. So this is some polar air coming across the northeast here, and that's driving that front that's in Georgia down to the south. So we're going to expect to find high pressure somewhere in this area here in the Midwest. So where's that high pressure area? I'm looking at the actual the pressure plots, and I'm seeing 1020 there in Detroit, 1021 here, so it's probably around Lake Huron and Michigan, somewhere in that area. So that high pressure is driving that anticyclonic flow that's going all the way down to Georgia. And let's see, one more place we can look at is the northern plains. Northern plains here is catching a little bit of that anticyclonic flow coming from the Great Lakes, recurving into southerly flow across the Dakotas. And because the source region of that is the Great Lakes, the dew points are on the cool side. So we're seeing upper 50s mostly in that area. Most of the tropical moisture is pretty well down to the south in Iowa and around Nebraska. And then as we go up to Montana, it's like a new outbreak coming through Montana there into the Minot and Miles City area. So roughly in that area right there. And where we have the better moisture, see the 52 dew points here, 54, 50. That's helping to feed this area of showers right here. And where we have cooler dew points, 49, 50, that inflow is a lot less moist, so we're seeing mostly elevated stuff where that impinges on the boundary. And I was going to look at soundings. I'll probably just pull out a few of those. It's good to kind of look at those every once in a while. All right, which tab had my soundings? Wasn't that? Yeah, there we go. Let's check out the sounding for Bismarck. There's a little bit of, let's see, this is going to be for this morning. And one thing that we see here is they had westerly flow at the time. The flow had not yet recurved back to the south and southeast. So we're going to see those that moisture be a little bit on the dry side. And indeed, we look at the dew points. There's the surface dew point right there. Follow that on up, and we can see that that's about 7-8 degrees Celsius, which is going to be about 43 to 44 Fahrenheit. So that's very dry air. So since 12Z, which was this morning, they've probably seen that replenished a bit. That is increased to the lower 50s. So the moisture plot is probably looking a little bit more like this. So when you do your soundings, you have to kind of modify it and, go through your surface charts and see how the air mass has changed. And only then can you start building your lifted parcel. Because this morning you can see the lifted parcel was definitely not conducive for precipitation. But that change in air mass has made a big difference. And we'll take a look at one more random sounding for Lake Charles. That's going to be in that tropical blob of moisture. Surface dew points here are around 23 Celsius, which is about 74 Fahrenheit. So very moist air. A lot of moisture all the way up to about 22,000 feet there. So definitely a very tropical air mass here. And the lapse rates are not very steep here. So that's the reason we're not seeing a whole lot of organized thunderstorm activity today. All right, well, hopefully I haven't covered too much material too fast. I kind of wanted to hit a little bit on the dynamics and what's going on in the big picture, and then I took you down to the small picture. So let's just look at what's happening next week, and we like to look at the precipitable water. Lots of 2 to 3 inches out around the Gulf. And we can see that over the next few days it continues building and shifting eastward. So we're going to see more of that coming into Texas next week. I don't think the precip is going to be totally shut down. See, there's another bit that works on shore. So we're going to remain in Texas under this southeasterly flow with a lot of a lot of deep moisture coming in, and chances of rain are probably going to be running about 30 to 50% here each day. And then the 500 millibar chart. This is, remember yesterday we were talking about subsidence, working on the air mass. Well, we'll look at this 588 line right here. And what happens to that? Does that build or does that retreat? Looks like it builds a little bit, so that's probably going to take our rain chances down very gradually, it looks like, over most places. But they do form this disturbance along the Texas coast. And you can see the GFS here on Sunday. It gets this closed low going, so there's probably going to be a chance there of some heavy rain around Houston over the weekend, and that shifts into the San Antonio area around Sunday. And then that moves into Mexico next week, and we'll just be kind of in a moist pattern with looks like low chances of rain. The heat comes back around Friday because you can see that ridge building in here, but we're going to be looking off to the west for this next trough to be coming in. So that'll probably start changing our weather after next weekend. I guess Labor Day is coming up here, so I don't see any big problems here in the southern U.S. for Labor Day weekend, but out west it does look like a different picture. All right, well, I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you checking in, and we'll see you tomorrow. 11 people on. Yeah, we're picking up the numbers here, so that's good. Hopefully you can join us tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.